Could you pour that tea into that cup, do you think? Just offset and then bring it over to me.
Into what cup? Okay.
Good afternoon and welcome back to a quick draw. But this afternoon's quick draw is all about Mum. So we've already done our little mini make. We made a gorgeous little bouquet of flowers using paper and card and felt tip pens, and it looks so cute. Look, if you made that for Mum, I reckon she'd be totally and utterly thrilled. So that was really gorgeous. And now we're going to do our quick draw, and we're just going to, what I'm going to suggest to you is that you just try and find something that's out in the garden, that, you know, a nice flower or a nice, it could be, as you know, one of those sort of native flowers from a tree. I had a good look round. Obviously, we're now in a townhouse development. We don't really have many sort of native tree plants. Daisy's just come over with a lovely cup of tea for me. Thank you, Daisy. And so I've got, that's fine. So I've got a rose. And what I was explaining to Daisy, come and have a look. Look how much it's changed already.
Oh, wow.
So I was explaining to Daisy, when you get white flowers, and these are those inks that I made. Do you remember where we broke open an old felt tip pen?
Still more back there.
And we put there's still more on the shelf back there. We broke it out, put it into water to make our own watercolors or inks. Well, I've just put the white flower. This was about half an hour ago. I put the white flower in here, and already, if I go up to this camera here, already it started to suck up that red ink, and it's turning the blossom into speckledy pink. So that is, when you go to the newsagents and you see, or supermarkets, and you see lots and lots of brightly coloured flowers, that's how they do it. They're pretty much, well, obviously some flowers like these beautiful, they're mini daffodils, but they're called narcissi, or I'm pretty sure they are. And the smell of them is incredible. And a beautiful friend in the Gap, Diana Briscoe, who has been doing my sip and paints, she just gave me a couple of really cool big jam jars for my tuck shop, which the kids are going to love when we get back in here. And then she dropped off some flowers and some chocolates and a lovely card to say thank you. Thank you so much. You know, it's all about Mum this weekend, isn't it? Because it's Mother's Day, and if you can take time just to do something lovely for Mum, it will mean so much. So today's drawing of a beautiful flower is going to be just like that. Just give her a drawing. Honestly, mums don't want much. You know what I said to my children? All I want, the three of them, is to have a day where I don't have to nag, I don't have to pick anything up, where I don't sound grumpy, where I don't have to cook, where you don't have an argument, and actually where I laugh a lot. That, for me, is a gift. If I had all of that, I don't need anything else. That is all I want. Just laughter, fun, cuddles with my kids, maybe a nice breakfast in bed or a cup of tea instead of going down, you know. We all like a cup of tea, thank you, Daisy, when they're brought over for us. You don't need much to make you happy, do you? So Diana, thank you for that lovely gift and a beautiful homemade card. I really appreciate it. But for now, we're going to draw our flower. So what we're going to talk about is observational drawing. Observational drawing is when you look at something and you draw what you see. So you could go out in the garden, and maybe you have already, and got yourself something that you're going to draw alongside me today. Or you can follow my steps of drawing this rose. Either way is fine. Now, I am going to try and use, I'm going to start drawing with a 4B. I've got an 8B, a 2B, and an F, which is a little bit darker than a HB, because I know it's been a bit tricky to see the HB sometimes on the camera. So the trick, as with everything, is to give it a good sketch out first, okay? Now, I want my blossom to be really big. Do you fancy doing that? Let's do that. So I'm going to get myself, luckily, the rose is a circular shape. So we're going to get a nice big circle shape. I might just pull it down this way so it's not so much in the shadow there. Okay, going to get a nice big circle shape. That's about how big my rose is going to be. Okay, I'm just going to go a little bit darker, and hopefully you can see that. I've got to be careful with the dark pencil that I don't push too hard, okay? Because if I push too hard, then let's just move that light so it's not so bright. That's a little bit better for you, isn't it? There we go. All right, so if I push too hard, then I can't rub it out. Okie dokie. So I'm looking at my flower and I want to find my center point. And my center point is right in the middle on this flower. So I'm going to put a center for my flower. My flower is face on to me, isn't it? Looking right at me. So I'm just going to count the first load of petals in that centerpiece of the flower. Okay, so I'm going 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I'm going to go up 1, 2. I'm going really lightly. I don't want to go too heavy. 3, 4, 5, 6. Now at this stage, I've just drawn in a rough shape. I'm not looking at them at all, okay? Then I've got another tier. So I've got another ring around, and I'm going to count round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So about 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and I'm going to go 8, 9, 10. So we've got that next ring. Now we're going to do the other ring, which is, I can see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, coming this way, 7, 8, that's about 10 as well. So there's 10 there. And then I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 low petals. One there, one that comes out towards the front, one that comes out at the side, another one there, and then one at the top. So that's me plotting out my basic flower. And before we do any more of the observational drawing, I'm now going to rub out my circle that was my guide. Because now I've plotted out the petals, I don't need that circle line, which is why we don't want to draw it very thick. Now I've decided that today I am going to add a bit of colour to my drawing. So I'm going to keep my pencil lines light, and we're going to add some colour in at the end. Just rub that off. And I'm also going to add in this vase. So it's a bottle, so I'm going to add the neck of the bottle. I'm looking at it. The neck of the bottle is nearly as wide as the flower. So I'm going to make sure I've got the neck there. You can see the curve of the bottle, the opening. So I need to get that opening, and then you would see the curve going back that way. That way you can see it's an open bottle. And there's the like edge of the bottle. And now it goes down, and it's got a very slow shoulder, like a very slow slope. And then the same on that side, a very slow slope down. So that's where my bottle's going to go. And you can see the water. So the water, I can see it's like round like that, but I can see the back of the water as well. Round like that, and the back of the water. I can see the stem going right in my bottle. And we're going to put in our leaves. So there's one big green leaf here. Then there's one big green leaf up here. And I've got a gorgeous little bud here. So we're going to put this bud in. So this bud isn't open, it's closed. So we'll just put the shape of that bud in, and then there's a leaf in behind. So that is really my composition. And now I start to really look at it, and I start to look at the shapes and really start to work in the drawing. Let's not worry about the center, but let's just get the shape of these petals right. So for a start, I can see that this first petal is really short. So I'm now going to draw it in, and it's wide there, and then it goes into the center. The second petal comes up, and it's got a bit of a curve there. So I'm looking at the second petal just here. It's got a bit of a curve. It goes up and around and stops, because this petal comes over the top. And it's a bit like a kidney bean and goes down. So I'm now onto this petal. And this petal goes quite large. The next petal again is overlapping. So I'm going to start it from there. It's going to go into the center of the flower. And it comes right up. It's got a little bit of a dint. Much, much bigger petal, that one. It's opened right out. So let's rub out that guideline there. Let's rub out that guideline there. So as I start to draw my flower, I rub out all my guidelines because I'm actually plotting what shapes I'm actually now seeing. And that's the difference between observational drawing and guesswork. We can all guess what a flower looks like, but actually a flower isn't this perfect curvy shape, you know, that we do in prep. Some flowers are, yes, some flowers are, but mostly flowers have very, very different and distinct shapes on every single petal. So it's important that if you're going to draw from observation, that you use your eyes and you observe. It takes much longer, of course it does. Yes, yes, yes. And if you look at the edges of a flower, they're very seldom just flat. They've usually got a little flutter or a flute on them. Right, let's rub out that ugly circle because it's not a circle in the inside at all. Okay, so that's that first layer of flowers done. Now I'm going to look at my next one. I'm going to start off at the same petal, and the next petal comes out like this, and it goes right up. It curves round, and it's got like a little point, almost like the Taj Mahal. Little Taj Mahal flower petal, which is really beautiful. And this one is overlapped, so we're going to put the overlap in. And he's got another one. So they do, because as you know, a flower opens out, doesn't it? If you've ever seen, and if you haven't, children, have a good look at a flower opening on a time-lapse camera. Google it and you'll find one, and it is just mesmerizing to see how beautiful they are when they open out. It's like a fan almost. So I'm just drawing in the shape of that petal. We're right down the bottom now. That petal there. So just to make it easier, let's rub out some of these guidelines so we can see which lines are staying and which lines are going. Starting to see the shape of our flower emerge. So I've done that one there. Okay, we're going to come over here. It's got a little bit, sometimes they've got little bits come out that have been taken out. Maybe they've got damaged or the winds had them. This petal's got another little kick at the top. And then this petal's the same. It's got a little twisty bit at the top and it goes in there like that. So that's that next row of petals. Okay, now we're on to the back ones. Now as we go to the back ones, there's less petals showing, and usually they're in between the gaps that you've seen. So let's start at the bottom here, and this petal is like this and then goes to there, and the next one overlaps. This one doesn't have a twist, it's just a round petal going in there. And the next one is underneath the back. It does have a little twisty bit at the end. Yeah, this one is just a short little curve, it's just an extra little petal there. The big one at the back is kind of really curvy, so let's get that big one in. Goes right in there, and then it comes right up and back in and around. And this one at the front comes out. It's got a huge big bend. And that one comes out to meet it. So that's a very different shape. That's really opened out at the front there, hasn't it? All right, so we're up to the back. We've nearly finished our drawing, and then we're going to start shading and colouring. So this one here is easy. It's another one of those little top hatty ones, little Taj Mahal. Oh yeah, all of these ones are kind of Taj Mahal shape at the back. Not so much of a shape there. It's got another little bump and down. And this one is out to there and down. Rub out all these extra lines because it does make it confusing otherwise, doesn't it? You're like, which bit is the petal? Okay, we've got some final little petal there at the back. So I can rub out all of that because that's all been completed. And that's been completed, and so has that. So all of that side is now done. And then we come over here, we've got 3 or 4 more petals to put in. So this big one here has a real sort of open, and it's really wide on one side, comes down into a lip, has another little lip, and comes back in. And that one comes into there. It's incredible that literally as I'm drawing it, the ink that's going through my flower is getting darker and darker, and it's looking so pretty. It's got this beautiful blush going on, which is going to be lovely to draw. Wouldn't it be fun if you gave your mum a flower that was white from the garden and then put it in one of these waters where you've got a felt tip pen in there, the insides of a felt tip pen or a highlighter, and you said, Mum, put it in, put a message with it. Mum, put it in here. I need a drink, and watch the magic. And then let the flower turn, you know, a beautiful colour for Mummy. She would love that. That would be so cool. I'm just putting in the bud there. It's kind of like a rolled up sausage shape because it hasn't quite opened. And then I'm just drawing in my leaves. Like that. And I've just missed one more bud, one more petal is at the back. All right, so that is my flower shape. And now we're going to start to shade it. Now, you have to look, it's great having this sort of lighting because now I've got some really, really good shading. Some really good shadow. And you have to look, and basically inside the depths of each petal is where the shade is. So if we start at the bottom, the shade is where the petal on top of that petal leaves a shadow. So I'm going to draw the shadows that I see. So that one there's got a shadow. And then it comes, there's a bit of a shadow there. And then around here, yep, there's a shadow there. And you can take as long as you want on this. You can really take your time. I'm going to swap from to a 5B so it's not so dark. Okay, this one here has quite a lot of shadow, so I'm going to put in quite a bit of shadow on this one here. So you could just do this as a pencil sketch and just give it to Mum as a pencil sketch. You could do it as a coloured pencil sketch. I was going to do it as a bit of both actually. So I'm just going to put the shadows in using pencil, and then I'm going to add some colour to it as well. And I'm doing it very, I would say casually. Like I'm not going to make this a really laboured drawing of a flower. I want it to be quite casual, quite simple. Going to get a bit darker in those real heavy undertone bits of shadow there. Okay, there's shadow up here. If you don't put those layers of shadow in between the petals, then you don't really see the dimension of the flower. So it's really important that we actually work through that. So I'm using the flat of my brush, my pencil to do my shading because I get very even grey. And if I want it to go darker, then I push harder to get a darker. If I want to draw lines, then I start to use the tip of my pencil. And I don't want to use lines just yet. I just want to get that tone and that shadow in. So I'm just using the side of my pencil and just putting all those shady patches in. And then we're going to draw the detail after that. Drawing, very much like painting, is you know, it's one of those things that takes a bit of time. Yes, it is skill-based, but it's one of those things that you can practice. And learning how to use the right tool for the right job is a skill in itself. So knowing, you know, which pencil will give you a dark or a softer tone. Once you've got that and once you've worked it out, then it's about knowing how to make the shapes, how to mark make. And once you've got all of those bits and pieces, you can pretty much do anything. It's really just about practicing and having the right subject. So obviously I picked flowers today because it's Mother's Day. And who doesn't like flowers? We all do. We love them. Okay, I'm just using my 10B now because my 10B is much softer. And so it's giving me that real dark, charcoaly deepness to my flower. You can see the center of my flower I haven't even shaded at all. I've left it really, really light. I love sketching. I think it's one of the things that I like to do with some soft music. You know, a nice, it sounds a bit naff, but when I'm in a mood like this, I can't draw listening to, I don't know, Coldplay or anything too energetic. I just need to be in a kind of soft mindset. And if I listen to something like that, then I start doing this. And I mean, I like that music, but I can't draw quietly when I'm listening to that sort of music. I have to have very quiet. Maybe sometimes I listen to piano playing. Audiobooks, I listen to audiobooks when I'm drawing. I do like an audiobook, but I can't listen to much beat at all. Right, now in the center of the flower, in the center of each petal, I started to draw it in here. They've kind of got a vein where it's kind of opened out. So I'm just using my 4B, which is slightly lighter in color, just to draw that kind of center of the flower. So, sorry, center of each petal. The sort of vein or the crease mark as it's opened out. Oh, there's no shading up there, so let's add a bit up the top. Okay, now I want these leaves to be very different, so I am going to use the dark, heavy pencil here, just so that they're really obviously a different texture. And I'm not going to colour it all in because I'm going to use some green pencil in a minute, but I'm just going to go quite strong and quite bold with my shading. And then we're going to use a touch of green as well in a minute. Just looking, yep, there is definitely some leaf markings, some veining going on, so we need to add those in. And then up here, it's got a vein right through there. And 1, 2, 3, one's going down there, one's going down there. There's a big strong shadow from the bloom there. Just going to add that one in. That's a bit highlighted, so we'll leave that bit. Okay, so let's get down here and just do some shaping of our bottle. Now, I suggest that when you're observational drawing, you take as long as you need. You can see that I'm rattling through this, and I'm rattling through it because, you know, you don't want to be here for hours with me. You've got better things to do on a Friday evening. hopefully this weekend, with the restrictions being lifted, we can all get out and about, perhaps go and see Granny or our friends and actually, you know, have a nice time. I mean, not that we haven't had a nice time as a family, but it would be nice to see some other faces, won't it? Catch up with a few friends. Now, this has got a bit of a leaf in here, so I'm going to do, if I do it the same tone as the others, then it's going to look like it's a leaf inside. All right, so that's the start of my flower. I want to use my hardest pencil, which is the F. I could go harder and use a H. Just have a little cup of tea. You can basically, if you look at a pencils, oh look, there's my face from yesterday. You've got 8B is up here, and then you've got 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Actually, there's not really a 1. It goes HB, then it goes B, then it goes H, then it goes F, and then you have 2H, 4H, 6H. Now, up this end is hard, and down this end where the B's are, so we started off there, 2B, 3B, 4B, 5B, 6B, 7B, and I had a 10B. That's soft. After 10B, you're really at charcoal. The softer they are, the darker they are. The harder they are, the more grey, the lighter the grey tone. Okay? So these are, because the pencil is really hard, they're really good for drawing in like really details, like if you want to add some little flecks like this, or maybe a little bit of texture, fringing, all of that sort of stuff. So you want to go with a harder pencil, and I want to try and draw this pollen in the middle. So it's tiny, 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 tiny spots and twists, and then there's lines as well. And if I use that really dark 8B or 10B, I would end up getting lots and lots of smudge, which I don't want. So I'm using this harder pencil. If your child or if you are a child watching now, you know, and you really like drawing, but you've only got a HB and you want some others, then pop it on your Christmas list. You can get really nice tins which have sets of pencils in them. If you're not sure, you can ask Mummy to ask me, and I'll help you tell you which ones to get. Montmartre do a lovely set. I think they're about $7.99, and you've got a whole range of pencils in that. Do I think it's worthwhile? Yes, I do. I think it's really important, if your child does like drawing, to have the variety of, it's like having one colour of pencils or having lots of colours of pencils. It means they can really play around and explore. And you know what, pencils will last. I mean, when I look at some of mine, you know, a pencil like that, I've probably had 5 years, I should think. You know, they don't really, I mean, obviously I have lots and lots, but you don't use a huge amount. If they're kept well, which means that the kids have got to be careful with their pencil cases, because obviously if you drop it, they'll shatter right through. So it's really important to just be careful when you're transporting your pencils, and they don't smash. So I'm just using my pencil just to draw in some texture, adding in some crinkles, some lines, looking at the center of that. I've done my pollen in the inside, and you can see I'm just starting to add. I'm going to lift it up close to this camera, and you can see I'm just starting to add some texture, some line work. And then after we've done that, we'll start to put some colour into it. And I'm not going to add very much colour, but just enough, just so it looks pretty, because it is Mother's Day. Leave me a message. Let me know what you're doing for Mother's Day, what secrets you've got planned. Are you going on a trip? Are you going down to see Granny and sharing a big, nice family lunch with 10 or more, should I say? 10 or less, not 10 or more. We're not quite there yet. All right, I think I'm gonna call it a day there. You can go on for ages, you know, when you're doing observational drawing, you're looking at the glass, you want to look at the reflections, and it goes on for a long time, which, you know, if I was doing this for myself, I could spend half a day drawing this, which I'm not going to do with you guys tonight. But you get the idea. Okay, let's find this. I mean, look, I'm going to hold this up to the light. So when I started this afternoon, that was pure white, that flower. And look at all the pink spots it's on now, all around the edges. It's really pretty. So let's get that pink like this. And we're just going to put, so I'm just going to sharpen it a little bit. And these are my watercolor pencils, and I use them, as I've told you before, heaps and heaps. They're an absolute go-to for me. I'm not going to put water on this today, so I use them as a dry pencil, or I do use them as a watercolor. And I'm just going to give that lovely pink edge to my flower. And I think if you did a drawing like this for Mum and you wrapped it up in a, you know, rolled it into a roll like a scroll and added a beautiful ribbon and a message, I think she would love it. She would love it. So in this center bit, I'm adding a bit of pink just behind the pollen. Just adding the pink to all of the fringe of those petals. This flower here I'm going to colour in entirely. I'm going to add another tone in a minute, so don't worry, I'm just laying on the first colour, which is like a cerise pink, I guess. Okay, now I'm going to go with another colour of pink. This is more of a purpley pink. And I'm just going to do some scratchy lines, almost feathery lines around the outside. Pressing a bit harder there to get those lines to come, to give some contrast against the other line. And now let's find some green for this leaf. Put some green on the bottom of that bud there. Green on the stem. And that leaf going off there. Got to use the side of my, and just let it go nice and scribbly. Let's find another colour green. I've got a limey green, and we'll just fill in some gaps with a bit of brightness. And then that purple, I forgot to add that purple on the bud, so I'm just going to add that purpley colour on the bud. Beautiful. And now we're going to use that, and although the water is red, which is this colour here, I'm going to use red and pink so that it sits nicely with the colour of the flower. I don't want to make it too bright because otherwise you'll look at this and you won't look at the flower. So just enough. Now add in a bit of softness with the pink so that you can see that it's water. And then I'm just going to go over these lines again on the front, over the top of what we've just coloured to make sure they stand firm. And finally, we're just going to add a little bit of highlight. So I'm going to put highlights over the top of my colour so it looks like glass. See there? Nice strip there. And one there. If you do it on the bend, it works really well to show that it's glass. If I smudge that down with my fingers and now put some highlights that go sideways, then that will show the glass. And finally, let's write a message. Dear Mum, you are amazing. Love me. There we go. Going to sign it at the bottom. And that's our beautiful flower drawn today for Mother's Day. We've copied our flower from our garden. We've done it as a pencil sketch. We've put a bottle on it. And what mum wouldn't be tickled pink to get a drawing like that at Mother's Day from you? She would absolutely love it. I would love it. I'm going to post this one to my mum so she can have it. So that's it from me for now. We will be back in 20 minutes for the last one of our sessions this afternoon. We've got a lovely little drawing. It's kind of like it's like a mini map of where you live, using collage and pens and textures, and we're going to get really into it and be really creative. Okay, see you later. Bye.